Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tiff Talks Tech. Today, I'm super excited because I have Connie Lee, who's the CEO and co-founder of Reffie. And today, we're going to be talking about the right way to use AI for a personalized customer experience. Because we know AI is everywhere, we want to make sure that we're still hitting those personal touches. So that's what we're diving into today. But before we do, Connie, can you share a little bit about you and your background and what you do?
Yeah, no, and thanks for having me. Obviously, I've been a long time passive listener, and then it's a great experience to finally move into the other side and be one of the guests as well. But a little bit about what we do is essentially we are a centralized leasing platform for multifamily, SFR, BTR teams. We give you a platform where now you put your leasing HQ into us. We'll aggregate all your leads, bank the leads, suggest responses, and essentially just help the human do the job they like to do, but much easier with like an AI co-pilot essentially.
Yeah, I love that. And how did you get into all of that?
Yeah, there's two kinds of founders in software. There's like the founder who really wants to be a founder their whole life, and they go and find a problem, and then they're like, okay, this is a problem I can solve. That's not what I am. I am not that organized. This is an accidental company. I was working at tech companies, running sales teams. I ended up becoming a landlord. I had a vacancy that I had to fill. The property tax bill came and it was like super annoying because now I owe the government money and it's vacant and I was just a bad leasing agent. And honestly, Reffie started as a weekend project just solely for myself to work my own leads. And it kind of snowballed from there. My friends saw that I had way too much time for how many vacancies I had. They started asking questions and it just like rolled from there to eventually getting funding.
Yeah,
So
that's
purely
awesome.
accidental founder that dog foods their own product.
I love it. I think that's so great though, because I mean, you experienced the pain yourself and that fueled your fire. So I think that's really cool. I want to talk about like the right way we can use AI for personalization. So a lot of people, they just see it as a way to make things faster and more efficient. But how do you make sure that it's really enhancing that human connection? Like you were saying, do more of what we actually enjoy.
So when Reffy in the system, when we think about launching AI, we really look at data, which is, I guess, like very cliche because obviously everyone's data driven. But the funny part is in Reffy, we have an analytics module. And originally it was only internal for us to make sure that features actually worked. And then eventually we made it external for other people to monitor it with us. But the way we think about it is if someone requests an AI feature, we will test it relentlessly. And if it doesn't work in terms of actually delivering results, we essentially either rip it back out, dump it, or like stop working on it, even if it's something that visually and marketing wise feels like it works, right? Like, for example, you see like a lot of snazzy AI marketing commercials now where it's like, what if the AI assistant could book your itinerary travel for you? And it like sounds really great and you think it really works.
Yeah.
But then you go and try to book your own travel and then you realize, wait, I can't use AI because it doesn't know that I don't want this kind of bedroom. I don't want to stay at this hotel. This is like not my vibe. And it doesn't actually quite work. But the idea of it sounds great. So that's how we think about it at Reffy. We hear what our customers want, we try it, and if it actually doesn't fill your unit faster, we're like ripping it back out, regardless of like how great it sounded on paper.
Yeah, I love that because I think, I mean, with the way AI is evolving, we're all in a rush to get certain features out there. But at the same time, like you're saying, if it doesn't work, that it's really hindering your process. So you have to make sure it's actually doing what it's meant to.
Like I wish it worked. Obviously, if you offer to me a crazy, like dreamed up scenario, of course I want it to work.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So with for multifamily marketers that are looking to enhance that human connection, and personalize things, where would you recommend they start and like what kind of workflows should they look at?
I think a lot of the ways AI models are great now is not the closing part, right? Like if you think about
Yeah.
leasing and marketing, there's the whole funnel of when you first meet them, you've activated, engaged them, there's some back and forth, maybe some in-person time for the tour, and then you're finally at the end where we're going back and forth again to essentially close them. I think the further and further you get down that funnel, that's where the human makes the most conversion. Cause like the in person part,
Mm,
obviously human, the part where you answer all of their final questions, because they are signing essentially probably one of the top three most expensive contracts they will be signing in their lifetime.
yeah.
Cause, like $2,000 rent is $24,000 contract. So AI works really well as the transaction is low stakes, like right at the beginning, responding to
Mm,
their first inquiry saying like, "Hi, like I got your message. This is definitely still available." Booking the tour is a little dicey depending on how fast and loose you are with your availability calendar because AI is really great if your calendar is accurate, but if your calendar is kind of an ever moving thing, which is the case for a lot of on-site leasing agents because it feels like the day you have tours booked is also always the day like an HVAC blows up for some reason.
yeah.
Um, so I think like as the low stakes communication AI is really great at. It's just that as you get more human centered, AI is just not quite there. Especially when you're trying to convince someone to, yes, this will definitely be your future home and where your kids can live and go to school.
Yeah. No, I think that totally makes sense. And that is a good way to keep that human connection alive because the low stakes stuff, yeah, that is more just taking up your time. Whereas
Right.
later on, you're really getting the thing done.
Yeah, that's why I think in its current iteration and like the level of advocacy that the AI models allow now, one of the
Yeah.
best ways to deploy it is if you keep a tight leash on like a teamwork method, like a co-pilot between the AI and the human. You want the AI to kind of send the first three messages, and then the minute that you can tell a lead is high quality, high intent, really wants to live in your community, that's when the human should really take over to just close the deal.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Because the AI is not going to do that for you, most
Right.
likely. Unless your
Yeah.
property is really crazy nice or
Right, and if
something.
you're like if you think about the more expensive your property is or, like
Yeah.
and you think about, like, what kind of person would rent from not talking to any human, because like, usually the
Yeah.
way when I talk to renters, the way I think about it is, this is essentially like a first date, and you're supposed to be on your best behavior, and if I don't hear from you now, what happens when, we're going through rough times, right? Like, my toilet is flooded, my fridge doesn't work, so that's why
Yeah.
I think that, that human interaction is so important for them to actually close that deal.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about what I would want if I'm going to be spending more at a higher level community, I'm going to want to talk to somebody because I'm going to want that level of customer service. I'm going to expect it.
Right, and, like, communities like the ones like walk-ups in New York, I have so many friends in New York who, if there's not a doorman, right, they actually don't wanna live in that building because they
Mm,
are paying that premium, they're expecting that quality. So if you go further and further up the Class A chain, I would expect that just your type of demographic just expects kind of that hand-holding and white glove treatment.
yeah, absolutely. So finding that really good mix, it can be tricky, but how do you think businesses can strike that balance of building the relationship versus having AI in certain places?
Yeah, I think if you were to actually employ a full-on chatbot in your community and you are extremely class A, I think you will. There's always like an implementation timeline for these chatbots. I think for that kind of community, you should expect to spend the bulk of your implementation time essentially training your model because you actually have to draw the line pretty strict. Like this is when the human needs to come in and start really
Mm,
giving the concierge service. Obviously, if you're maybe like workforce housing, you could go a little crazier and be a little fast and loose about it. But if you end up using sort of a combo of automations plus Copilot, that's probably the easiest way for you to implement AI because then
yeah.
it's less chat body and more like using AI to do back end work. So you can be less careful about it.
Yeah, I think it's so important to think about that workflow and really put a lot of thought behind it and where the AI is going to jump in.
Yeah, so a lot of success I see in the industry when people are implementing AI is I don't want to say it's like user error, but it's usually how much time you essentially took into training the model, right? How many
Mm,
knowledge based articles you actually fed into this thing because the AI is not sassy or like mean on purpose. They're just like this is your books you gave me, so obviously I answered the pet policy based on the books you gave me. If you don't give me a
right.
book, I guess I'll make one up because I'm just gonna do my job.
Yeah, AI is only as good as the information that you put into
Right.
it. So if you're going to put in more to implementation, that's going to save you more time later on because you're not having to go back and add more.
Yeah, and then a lot of marketing teams, what they realize when they go into these implementations is we don't actually have knowledge base articles to feed into it
Yeah.
too, because it's not like someone sat down. I guess like yeah, it's not like a real normal job function in multifamily to be like someone needs to sit down and write the handbook of amenities for this community or whatever. It's usually like
Yeah.
whatever someone finally checked off because there's a vacancy and they checked off the amenities on Zillow.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's interesting that you bring that up too, because I think that brings up the point of making sure you look at what model of AI you're using when you're implementing in any aspect. Like if you're using an NLP solution, you want to look at how does that get trained? Or are you using a large language model? Are you just using guided conversation? Like
Right.
what is it? Because that's going to affect how you train it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wanna talk about, like, the risks of badly deployed AI and how that can really affect your business. We've seen it go off the rails, like you're saying. It could be rude if it doesn't have what it needs, or it can be weirdly robotic and things like that. What are some of the worst AI fails that you've seen?
I feel like the most common complaint is that the AI is like a grade A gaslighter that just like say whatever they want and
Yeah.
right? But I have a couple examples, anecdotal examples. They didn't happen to
Yeah.
me. They happened to some of our users who have tried full on chatbots and whatnot before. So one user complained that half the time they would listen to the voice recording because they tried an AI voice agent.
Yeah.
And half the calls were just people yelling into the phone saying, "Speak to a representative, speak to a representative." And it was funny, they finally realized that because they also had, notifications turned on where it would email the transcript to them. So
Yeah.
every transcript that was coming in would just completely capitalize "speak to a representative." So that's unfortunate. One's a little crazier. This one was a company, they were piloting the chatbot, like, texting feature, and
Yeah.
apparently the chatbot received a threat from a renter, a prospective
Oh.
renter. They were like a crazy person. They were just like yelling things at the chatbot and they were like, "Yeah, I'll come and see you Friday," as like a threat. And then the chatbot was like, "Thank you. You're booked for Friday at 5 p.m. for a
Oh,
tour."
no.
And it's like bad because they were scattered site leasing. So the manager had to call the leasing agent and be like, "Do not go to this apartment at 5 p.m. by yourself in
Mm,
Brooklyn. We're canceling this." Because it's like,
yeah.
also like most leasing agents are women and they're going to apartments by
Right.
themselves. Obviously, he didn't know if this person was really going to show up because it was like random threat, but who knows? They were like, just don't go to the showing.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to like the voice AI, I think it's so interesting because I don't know, I see it as different levels of like who I want to talk to. And I think that AI is the last person I want to talk to on the phone if I'm calling. I mean,
Right.
first and foremost, I want to talk to the site. And then secondly, okay, a call center, that's fine.
Right.
But I really don't want to talk to AI if I'm calling.
Right. I mean, my thought process is like the AI is really great at answering miscellaneous questions like what's the pet policy, what's this, what's this, what's
Yeah.
this. But if you're a serious renter, you're likely just going to schedule a tour and ask the questions beforehand. Anything the AI will answer you beforehand is likely just a possible reason for the renter to reject you before they tour the community.
Yeah. And it's interesting because different people, they want different things when they're making a phone call. Like for me,
Right.
I'm not going to call you unless I really need you. And so that's why I want to talk to a person because I've already exhausted all the options. I've already looked online. I've already tried the chat because I don't want to talk on the phone. But my mother in law, she's going to call because she
Right.
loves it and she's going to ask the basic questions over the phone because that's just what she likes. So it is interesting how different kinds of renters they want different things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against AI. For multifamily, I think it's just like the most popular way people want to use AI now is just a chatbot. And honestly, I
Mhm.
think the biggest lift actually is rather than a chatbot for the AI, you should actually use AI for all the stuff the human leasing agents aren't good at. Human leasing agents are actually
Yeah.
pretty good at converting outreach and getting them a tour and getting them to sign a lease. It's just that you can't multiply that interaction a lot and also for the highest intent leads. I actually think AI is best for all the stuff they don't want to do, which is tracking stages, writing in little notes so that their community manager knows what's going on, all of the like boring, essentially like Salesforce admin work that a leasing agent
Mhm.
has to do. If you actually tee up like home runs for them, the leasing agent closes all of them. If you tell them like these are the top 10 hottest leads, they really want you, they like this community, just talk to them, get them on the phone or whatever you want to do, and get them in tour and
Yeah.
close them out. They have really high conversion rates.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like, anytime I've encountered a rude leasing agent or somebody who just seems like they don't really care, it's likely because they're overwhelmed, and a
Right.
lot of the time they are overwhelmed with those things that they don't wanna be doing, and they'd rather make those connections, a genuine connection, but they just feel like they don't have time to do it.
Right, it's demoralizing too, because if they get, like, 200 leads and they have to message all of them the same, kind of hoping for a good interaction, but the
Yeah.
majority of them don't, it really demoralizes them when they finally get to a really high intent lead. Whereas, it's sort of like a really positive flywheel if you keep just stacking the best leads from there, and then they feel really great. They're like, "Oh my god, I keep meeting really great people who want to live in the community. They had a great tour. I'm doing so well at my job. So that's honestly, I think, like some of the best ways you could actually utilize your current workforce rather than trying to replace them with a chatbot.
Yeah, totally. What are some signs that people are relying too much on AI in a way that's actually hurting their business?
There's actually a really great LinkedIn questionnaire by it's this lady named Lisa, last name T. She's like
Lisa
a
Trozine?
yeah, she had one recently.
Mhm.
She it was like and it was asking it was on the topic of stealth shopping buildings and using too much AI and how she can automatically tell when she does stealth
Mm,
shopping. And if you go into the comments, you could see that a lot of people will say like pretty frequently buildings who rely heavily on AI. If
yeah.
you sent in a contact us on any of the ILSs, nobody ever reaches back out to you, like ever,
Mm,
other than maybe the AI. So you're just like shocked, like, wow, they've decided that the AI is essentially going to do all frontline work. And if you just
mm.
don't make it past the AI, nobody will ever kind of try to revive you or anything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, especially because a lot of times we do rely on AI now to find hot versus cold leads, and then when it's a cold lead, the AI is kinda determining that, and then it's just dead, and it doesn't necessarily have to be dead.
Right, right. There's like a lot of because in this day and if you look at SAS like theology and like academic papers, they'll say it takes 100 touches now, essentially, to
Mm,
close someone. So if you were to apply that to leasing and you're like, wow, that's crazy. You sent them 2 emails and then you just stopped after that and gave up. Even though in leasing, every lead that comes in is a really hot lead because they probably gave notice somewhere. Hence why they're
mhm.
actually looking and they're like really ready to move.
Yeah, absolutely. When AI, it misfires, whether it's impersonal, it's inaccurate, or it's just uncomfortable. What's at stake for a business when that interaction happens?
I think there's a lot of brand reputation you're kind of putting at risk. Obviously, there's
Yeah.
also fair housing you're risking depending on how you don't train or train the AI. The brand gets worse and worse depending on how big of a city you're in. Right? Like if you're in New York, whatever, you'll probably never see this person again. But like if you're in Raleigh, Denver, those are you're starting to get small, right? Like these people aren't going to be
Yeah.
moving much. After a couple years, people probably know you, and even crazier and like smaller than that, like Plano, Texas, right? Like how many people live there now? And if you're one of those multifamily firms that are really trying to build a brand, so everything is called, I don't know, Aspire Estate, Aspire Colony, right? Now everyone knows
Yeah.
all the Aspire buildings, you'll never get a person.
Yeah. Totally. I agree. And you just made me think of a story. When I was testing different AI, there was one that I don't even think they're in our industry anymore, so I won't say the name, but I remember we were told that we needed to test this AI and we're like, "Okay, we already had one in mind that we really wanted to use, but we'll dive into it. We'll learn more." And I remember my boss asking them on the phone like, "Do you guys follow fair housing? Is that
Right.
something that you guys are familiar with?" And they said, "What's fair housing?" And I wanted to flip the table, and I was like, "If we're testing this on our properties, we can't use somebody who doesn't even know what fair housing is." Like, I was so upset, but I think it's so important, like, you gotta do the research beforehand and make sure that it is something that's gonna work for your properties.
Right. Like, for example, in California, you're not allowed to discriminate in vouchers. You probably should just avoid any questions around where your income comes from in California because there's so many laws
Mm,
around it. Whereas in Texas, you're allowed to say, Section 8 about income doesn't count. We don't kick that or whatever, right? Like, and it's like nuanced state by state, sometimes city by city. So if you just let an AI run free, there's the risk there. And I think most AI, if you read their terms of services, like deep into the boring document, it does say in there, I think that they're not responsible for breaking fair housing laws. It's up on you. It's up to you to train the model. So they've
mhm.
all mostly absolved themselves of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important to kinda dig into with your teams as you are onboarding things.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a company that realizes that their AI-driven experience is not working, what's the best way that they can course correct that?
They should identify, like, especially in marketing, they should go back essentially kind of to the foundation of like why they wanted it to begin with. Usually it's because they're just
Yeah.
not leasing fast enough and they think that if they deploy an AI voice agent, chatbot, or whatever, it will make them lease faster. But I
Yeah.
think the correct way to think about it is if you unleash that and it didn't make you lease faster, you should really go back and look and figure out why you didn't lease faster. Because it's usually not
Yeah.
because there wasn't enough leasing agents. It's usually like there's always 2 sides of the house for leasing, right? It's like, is it a marketing problem or is it a
Yeah.
leasing team bandwidth problem? Like, did you
Mhm.
have enough leads? Um, Or did you get a bunch of leads, but none of them qualified for your requirements? That might be like an inventory slash product issue that you've offered to the market. And like
Yeah.
leasing teams, I get it. It's pretty rare for me to meet a leasing team that truly only does leasing. Most of them are part-time vendor managers, part-time leasers, part-time
Yeah.
current resident therapists, right?
Yeah.
But you should look at, like, the funnel for a leasing team, right? Is it because all your leads are not getting outreached? If they're not getting outreached, then yes, the chatbot probably will help there. But if it's more like your lead to tour conversion is terrible or your tour to application conversion is terrible, then, like, that's something that leasing like, a chatbot won't fix, right? Like, your tour to application being
Yeah.
terrible is maybe you need a model home or maybe you need to turn on all the lights and turn on the air conditioning at this unit while you're touring or something like that, right? Like, that's not
Yeah.
something software code can fix because that's like a real life tangible problem.
Yeah, or even a training issue. Like maybe
Right.
there is something maybe the leasing agent doesn't know how they're coming off and they need help with that. Like look at all the angles for sure. So I want to talk about the impact on communication and how to overcome some of those challenges. I know a big criticism of AI is that it takes that human element out. Do you think that's entirely true or is it just the bad AI is making it that way?
I think a lot of people like underestimate the intelligence of renters.
Mhm.
Like they think that they'll unleash AI and nobody can tell, or like that's the hope is that nobody
Yeah.
can tell. But Gen Z is actually quite good at identifying bots, maybe because they've grown up
Yeah.
around it and they can tell. And then if you're older, you don't know how to interact with a bot, so like doesn't work. Because if you don't speak English
Yeah.
well or you're like really not technologically friendly, you actually don't know how to interact with a bot and you trip it up all the time.
Yeah.
I think in communication wise, if your AI is too formal, I think you get low conversions. It's like high outreach touch points, but low conversions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the
Because
things we used to say at BetterBot is like, no one wants to be tricked unless they're at a magic show. So you need to be upfront and
right,
say, this is AI. Because as someone using the AI, I'm going to change the way I ask a question if I know it's AI because I'm going to
right,
ask it a little bit more formally because I don't want it to get tripped up. And I know that
right.
can
You know
happen.
you need to be really, really literal if you're talking to
Yeah.
AI versus a person, you could be like, "Hey, how's the neighborhood?"
Yeah. Right. Or I would probably be more likely to ask a layered question than if I'm talking to AI and I know it, then I'm just going to ask one thing at a time.
There's also a lot of the big ROI drivers that AI is supposed to deliver, to be honest, you don't need to go as far as AI. So, for example, what we learned is one of the best conversion boosts that you could give to a leasing team is be quick to respond in a like non-aggressive, casual way. Like a terrible
Mhm.
analogy is, Tinder, right? Like you're trying to get a date. You probably should not be like, "Hey, like do you wanna go to a dinner at a five-course restaurant at this address? And, like, these are my deal breakers." Because like, obviously, nobody's gonna go on this date with you, but that's
Yeah.
actually how a lot of AI or, like, leasing agents will open a conversation. They'll be like,
Mm.
"This unit's available, you have to have 3x income, blah, blah, blah," and then, like
Yeah.
right? And that's
Uh-huh. And it
crazy.
scares them off.
Right. You can use AI to respond, or honestly, you could just set up a really, really easy automation saying, if someone reaches out, just shoot them a text. And the text is really casual, going like, yeah, the unit's available. When are you looking to move in? Because
Yeah.
honestly, if they say that they're looking to move in 6 months from now, why even try the AI? It's not like you want 6 months of vacancy waiting for this person.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are there any other tools or frameworks that you recommend to keep that AI messaging empathetic or more casual and emotionally intelligent?
I think a lot of AI implemented today should really take the route of having like a word limiter almost, right? Like
Mm.
most of the especially in multifamily marketing, the fact that you're using AI to do generated responses is probably you're probably in a medium where it's similar to instant messaging. It's either texting,
Mhm.
literally instant messaging on like the corner of your website or something like that. And the longer your message is, it's like a dead giveaway that's clearly a bot or like something you don't want to deal with because more and more of our demographic is like they don't like to pick up phones, they don't want to call you, they want like quick back and forth. And the longer and more formal your messaging is, like the more the vibe is just off. And you're like, I don't want to talk to this person. This is clearly a bot, or like this is way too crazy and like too
Yeah.
much pressure for me.
Yeah, if you're looking ahead, how do you think that AI will evolve to support more meaningful conversations and communication.
I mean, this is maybe like more biased by myself or like my own personal agenda, but I really hope that AI evolves not to replace human communications and
Yeah.
it evolves more in just like being like the AI virtual assistant
Yeah.
that's just saying like this lead, summarizing what this lead last talked to you about and say like you should just tell them this is a great neighborhood, whatever, whatever, ranking them for you, telling you like, hey, by the way, you talked to them 3 months ago. The two bed didn't work. It's time to reach out again. Should I like just reach out for you, saying like, hey, you want to chat again? Let's catch up. Basically being that second brain for you rather than trying to be a human.
Agreed. Yeah. And I mean that's how I use AI in my everyday life. I use it as a co-pilot and it's not replacing my job. Like it's not doing all the marketing for me. So
Right.
I think that is a great way to look at it as a co-pilot. That's really the way we want to use it.
Right. And then like as everyone more and more so adopts AI, it's kind of like a hot take maybe, but it's like if everyone has a chatbot and general responses, it kind of means that also nobody has one
Mm.
since, like it just feels impersonal. So now you're going to look for the
Mhm.
company that's willing to go above and beyond.
Mm. Yeah, I could totally see that. Where do you think that AI does make the biggest impact and is the most successful in our workflows?
Actually, I think AI has a lot of legs for applicant screening, fraud detection, and sort of like
Mm.
the financial statement, stuff like that, right? Because all those statements are almost always the same because they're formatted the same. Like ADP always has the pay stub looking exactly the same. You can reference very factual things like, is this an address that matches the work company that they put? And like, does this FICA and Medicare Caid tax rate match what's on the form? So, like, is this a real pay stub? And that's
Yeah.
something that's really tedious and boring for a human to do. But a computer with OCR could immediately look at the pay stub and be like, this is a fake doctored one.
Yeah.
Please double check this
That's a great
application.
point, and not to just, like, plug one of the companies that I work for, but Umbrello, they do just that, like, they use AI to scan all their documents and to
Right.
scan, like, all of the different resources that are out there and make sure that it is legit, like you're saying, so that is a great point, and I do think in areas like that, it can be really useful, and then it'll tell you, "This is why it's not going through," and you have more insight into that.
Right. I like AI for that because like in leasing, application review is infrequent enough that every time you do it, you're like, oh, let me like remember all my checklists, all the things I do. Every time
Mhm.
you see pay stubs, they're a little different. You have to
Yeah.
kind of like have a lot of experience in pay stub fraud to really get into it. Um, but the AI is very good at sort of that boring pattern recognition.
Yeah, totally. I
So
agree. And I think it can keep your community safe at the same time. Like,
yeah,
I think
or also like
about
boring QA stuff that people use AI for, where
yeah,
Um, there's a lot of, like, insurance claims and vendor
yeah,
claims and contracts that you have to remember for all the vendors and, like, renters insurance policies that's going on in your community, but
yeah,
AI is really good at reading it and being sort of like a questioner. You go like, "Hey, I'm trying to bill this vendor that we signed the contract for HVAC, like, can you tell me if it's net 30,
yeah,
net 60?" Right? Like, stuff like that. Because leasing agents a lot of times get staffed with random projects like that, but obviously they're not contract specialists and stuff like that.
yeah. I think that's a great point. Like, back in my day, I was looking at the contracts, printing them out, and filing them in a paper cabinet. And if we have AI, like, we're not having to go through and pull it out of the drawer and go through each
Right,
line. Like, AI is going to be able to do that for you.
right,
Yeah, I think that's a great call out for sure. How can companies make sure that their AI driven interactions feel like their brand and they're not coming off as generic? Like we're saying, I mean, Gen Z can spot it right away.
right. I think this goes back to before you as a company, like a lot of people think, "Oh yeah, I'll just like go to this vendor and implement AI." But there's actually a lot of prep work you as a company kind of need to be prepared for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you usually find that out after you sign up, and then now you're, like, kinda stuck
Yeah.
in months-long implementation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if you really truly want to adhere to, like, your brand and voice and image, someone on your team has to put together a box, right, of, like, every interview people have done, but like, as much information as they can in this library to train this LLM.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that prepared, you're not ready for that, you're just gonna have to decide, like, either put off the implementation or do a generic one because there's no way like, right, like, garbage in, garbage
Yeah.
out, right? If you don't give it the information, it's not gonna sound unique, and it's probably just gonna
Yeah.
sound like every chatbot that this, LLM happens to be employing to all the multifamily people.
Yeah, and I think about, like, when I was rolling out projects, we always did things in phases, and I think that was always a great way to do it because you do need to be prepared to put information in, but that is really gonna 1, it makes it sticky, the product's sticky, so you're not switching vendors willy-nilly, and at the same time, you put all this work in, and it's gonna really serve you in the long.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like leasing is rocket science. I feel like if you put a gun to a leasing agent's head and you told them like you got to lease this building today, right? Most of them will be like, okay, I know how to do this. I just need to work really hard. Like I know how to
Yeah.
lease this place, right? It's just hard to repeat that process across a lot of units. And then also, if you don't own the building, you're not as motivated to do that. The scenario of like gun to your head is
Yeah.
much more motivating than maybe
Yeah.
like $75 commission for a leasing agent.
Yeah.
I think, like, a lot of AI promises a lot of things, but to be honest, if you step back to sort of, like, first principles of what leasing is, you can just enhance your actual team and help them because they know how to lease units. They
Yeah.
just need help doing it, and it's not always in the help of, "Why don't I just message for you?" It's more like, "You're really good at closing. Let me show you which ones you should just close."
Yeah, and I feel like AI can do a lot of those admin tasks that they like, you can
Right.
set up those workflows, and that's gonna make it so much easier on them. What's a common misconception that people think about AI that you think needs to be debunked?
I think that a lot of demo videos do too good of a job, right? Like a lot of
Mm,
demos make AI look really magical and crazy. But to be honest, there's a lot of like Three Stooges type mishaps that actually
yeah,
happen. And obviously that doesn't no one's gonna put that in a marketing video.
yeah,
But everyone signs up for AI going like, okay, so it's gonna be able to be better than my leasing agent, do everything for me, right? And you're like, "Well, no, if it could,
yeah,
honestly, all leasing agents be fired already." And I think that has to be debunked, right? Because like, people go into it with extreme, like, futuristic sci-fi type
yeah.
expectations, and you're like, "I know the demo had, like, a lot of, like, fun EDM music and, like, the wand is always the AI's emoji now, so everyone
Yeah,
really thinks it's gonna be magical, but I'm like, there are some, like, actual limitations and expectations you should have for this brand new
yeah,
that was not in existence until X months ago.
yeah, and I think the other one is too that people think it's gonna take their job, and it's not, and it's like you said, the co-pilot, it's
Right.
there to help you.
Right. I always tell my customer, I'm like, I I am a landlord. I have these houses on my personal balance sheet, right? So like it's
Yeah,
way worse when I have a vacancy because I'm actually out that much money. If AI was as perfect as it was and at its price, of course I would use it, you know?
yeah.
But it doesn't. So you have to be aware of like what you can actually use it for and what you can't use it for.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point for sure. I want to think about what are some AI driven strategies that can help companies not just get the customers in the door, but also keep them engaged.
Yeah, this is something we're exploring and thinking about academically if we should put in the product. But it's something I played around with on my own for our own like SaaS marketing.
Yeah.
And it coincides with sort of like trends in multifamily marketing. So you probably know this now. Multifamily marketing is getting pretty big to do social marketing. Like a lot of communities and vacancies are getting listed on like Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
It's very big to like shoot these weird videos based on TikTok trends to like lease out your communities.
Yeah.
And one thing I saw AI being used is you can plug some of your socials in and it will automatically highlight like high intent comments on either forums you're in or like Facebook groups you're in or TikTok comments so that you could
Mm.
automatically respond and engage with your audience there. So I think those really match well just because I know how much social media marketing is taking off in multifamily now.
Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't know about that, but that's an amazing trend that is popping
Yeah.
up.
You have to be careful because obviously it, like, might break some social media app rules for a bot to be commenting for you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, like, usually when people market on social media, it's their own personal page, so you also wanna be hesitant about, like, people seeing that you're a bot.
Yeah.
You'll probably wanna just copy and paste the comments for now, But that's like one thing I'm excited about how the industry is moving towards.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a fun bonus question, and this is something that I ask everybody that joins my podcast. But is there a tech tool that you yourself are loving right now? And it doesn't have to be related to this, but something that you use in your everyday?
Actually, yeah, it was so I use this for email marketing. I don't think it's crazy, like brand new innovative tech. It's just very simple, right? It's like
Yeah.
I use this for email marketing where I upload a list in there and I set a couple sequences of basically like if they open the message, they respond to the message, they click the link.
Yeah.
And it's just like really simple. It just does one thing. So it's really nice that it's a platform. You go in there and it's not like five different pop-ups, five different modules. I like, okay, I just go in there and draw my flow chart and then leave.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish a lot of tech is that way because every platform almost always eventually evolves into a crazy monster. So
Yeah.
this is one of them I like. It's just like I go in there, do one thing. It's very simple. There's no bells and whistles, and it just does the job.
I love when things are specialized like that. I think that's great. Yeah.
I know it's, like, hard in the multifamily industry because obviously everyone has tech fatigue, so they're always like, "I wish everything was all in one." But I'm on the other side where I was like, I
I
actually
know.
don't want everything to be all in one because sometimes it's master of none.
Yeah, which I think is the larger conversation that we should all be having. And I know I did an episode a while back about like the death of full stack marketing because that is something that I used to want as a marketer. I wanted everything in one platform, but I think the more that we test a lot of these things, we find that it is like master of none. And you really want to look for those products that are more specialized because they do one thing really, really well.
Yeah. Like,
Um,
obviously, if all your leads are in Yardi and you can message everyone in Yardi, that'd be great. But, I mean, everyone's seen the Yardi platform, and it's quite difficult for leasing agents. It's really made for the accountants. So, an all-in-one would be great, but, like, that's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that I went through being on that side is like we tested that for
Right.
everything. Everything was just going to be in the one platform and it wasn't really working for what we needed it to. And it's great if it can for you, but a lot of times it just really doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think this has been a great conversation. Where can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, they can find Reffie at reffie.me, or they could email me personally, Connie at reffie. I'm always trying to get my steps in so they could book a time. We can go on a
Yeah.
walk together and chat. Or they could just email me, set a time to learn more about like all the crazy things I've seen in terms of what works and doesn't work in these things.
Yeah.
We have to see a lot of the messages that go back and forth between leasing agents and renters. And sometimes it's funny. You look at a conversation, you're like, wow, I know exactly why you're not getting approved for this building before you even tour.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you look at it and go like, "Wow, I know why this building is not leasing because like, these are the type of messaging you're using."
Yeah, and I love that you saw the issue on your own properties and that's really what fueled you to get things started because when people reach out to you and they can talk with you, you can let them know like I tested this on my own stuff and I'm not going to use something that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I love leasing agents. They have, like, the craziest stories, obviously,
Oh my
because
gosh, I know.
like, people go to them at a building when bad things are happening, so they always have,
Mhm.
like, the most insane housing stories.
Yeah. I mean, I worked on site for a good solid 3 months and it was absolutely insane. So, yeah. There was
Yeah,
some
and it's
really good
the hilarious
stories.
thing is, like, the stories don't get better if you go to Class A. Like, the stories are just as crazy as Class A and Class C.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They're just different. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think this has been great. Tune in next week and we'll have more insights for you then.
Yeah, yeah, sounds great.